This is An Economy of One with Gary Rathbun.
We're speaking with Leslie Davis Hiner. She's an attorney, vice president of programs and state relations for the Friedman Foundation. And thanks for spending a little time with us, Leslie, here at CPAC. I appreciate you coming by.
Thank you. Glad to talk with you.
You know, I'm a big Milton Friedman fan, read all of his stuff, Freedom of Choice or Free to Choose, I guess, and that kind of stuff. I guess I never really thought about what his foundation would be involved in. Tell us a little bit about the foundation for Milton Rose Friedman.
Oh, thank you. Happy to do that. Milton Friedman, as a Nobel laureate economist, and his wife Rose, who was also a brilliant economist, there was some speculation that their foundation would be devoted solely to free market principles, etc. Our foundation is very much based on free market principles. However, they believe very strongly that unless our children today are properly educated so that they could, when they become adults, understand a free market and how it works, then a free market wouldn't mean much. It wouldn't last long unless people actually had a proper education to understand how to make it work. So this is what we do. So we advocate for educational choice for all children. Very simply, to put the spending power of education funding into the hands of parents so that the parent can make the proper decisions for their own children about where that child should go to school.
Now we're talking K through 12. We talking strictly secondary?
K through 12.
K through 12. So right at the very beginning, parents have choice about where their kids go to school.
Exactly, and there's a strong economic reason for that as well. We find that across the country, if you look at the state spending in any state budget, over half of a state budget will be devoted to funding K-12 education. So obviously, that's a prime driver for taxation and spending in any state, and it's also been a driver that's been gradually increasing over time. Milton Friedman actually came up with this idea of putting the spending power in the hands of parents back in 1955. So this is not really a new idea. But in 1955, Milton was asked to take a look at how we fund K-12 education in the states. And he was quite surprised when he discovered that the economic model that we were using at that time to fund education was really more of a socialist economic model, which he could just hardly believe, but there it was. So he devised a different way of funding education, again, so the power of that funding mechanism could be in the hands of parents, who he reasoned would be, well, first of all, they'd be good consumers. They might shop for education. They would certainly want the best value for money.
Right.
And schools then would also know that, these parents, they don't have to send their kids here. They're only going to if this is a good school and their kids succeed. So with those market forces coming to bear in education funding and the spending of that money, certainly that would be a better way to improve. And in fact, Dr. Friedman believed that if we were to continue that socialist economic model for funding education, over time, the result would be mediocrity. Well, this is what we're seeing in our public schools today, by and large, is that mediocrity, because still today, we still have the same economic funding model that was in place in 1955, with the exception of those states that have adopted very vigorous educational choice programs and funding mechanisms.
So it's really a variation on free market principles, only instead of economics, it's education.
Yes, that's true.
So it's schools compete with each other for providing the best education, so parents will get the most bang for their buck. Is this basically a voucher system that we're talking about, or lower taxation so parents have more cash flow to spend on their choices?
This is inherently a voucher-based system. But what we found over time, and this was another thing that Dr. Friedman predicted, that if you had this kind of more of a free market funding model, there would be innovation over time. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. So, for example, in the state of Nevada, just this last year, there's a new program being adopted called an education savings account. So if you're a parent in Nevada and you decide to take your child out of a public school, you will then receive a savings account, literally a savings account. The state will fund it on a quarterly basis. And you, the parent, that could then decide that, well, maybe you want your child to continue taking some of the courses at that public school. Maybe your child needs some courses at a local private school, maybe a charter school, maybe a magnet school. Maybe you want to do some homeschooling for a couple different courses where you have some skills. The parent can decide from a whole variety of options, even including tutoring or maybe some therapies for kids who need help in learning how to learn. It's a very dynamic situation there. And so this is an innovative way to take this funding model. And again, it shows the power of the free market, that when people really have the freedom to make their own choices, good things happen from that.
And I'm not a parent, so that makes me an expert on raising children. You know that.
Of course.
But I've always said that the education process is both our salvation, and the lack of the education process is really what's caused our demise. And,
right.
Our leadership today is a product of 60s education. And
That's true.
I'm a product of 60s education, but I'm also a product of a pair of parents who valued objective thought and reasoning from the time I was just little. And,
right.
Just down the road from us, our home city is Toledo. Just down the road from us is Hillsdale College. And I didn't realize until, in the last couple of years, they're involved in K through 12 education.
They are. That's right.
Provide a lot of information for parents. And, they take no government subsidies, no government grants for any of their students, that kind of stuff. So the parents, the kids that go there, that was a real parental choice. And
yes,
you see what product they kick out in education. Now, I'm going to give you a loaded question. This is what we call a hanging curve softball question.
Okay.
In the educational process, what is your big resistance point? Who is fighting you the most on getting rid of vouchers or not providing vouchers, that kind of stuff?
Oh, well, this is a classic battle, because if you think about what we're talking about here, we're talking about shifting the balance of power, where the government or a school board has all the power, and now the parent has all the power. So, of course, those who sense that they're losing their power, those are the ones who will fight against us. So first of all, it's always the teachers' union. The teachers' union has really an outsized influence over public education at all levels, from testing, curriculum, teacher pay, conditions, size of classrooms, how many hours kids are in school, etc. So they're always first to bat to oppose us, and school boards. And also superintendents. Those are the three that come up all the time. And then, of course, there are some that are who are on the left, who might receive funding from the political arm of the teachers' union. So, again, it's a balance of power question.
Yeah, I was just going to throw that out there as an addendum. I mean, the politicians are oftentimes the policy setters and
right.
the pushers, and no pun intended on the pusher comment, but they're interested in maintaining their power through votes.
Yes.
And the teachers unions garner a lot of votes. I mean, they can direct a lot of votes in one direction or the other.
They can, and they do, and they have an awful lot of money. But now, Nevada is really the big ray of hope, because now we're finding that in Nevada, this new education savings account, it applies to 96% of all K-12 students in the state of Nevada. 453,000 kids now suddenly are eligible for this. So now the tables are turned, because all of those same legislators who had been relying on funding and political money, okay, now they understand that almost all of the parents and kids in their district are eligible for this. And guess what? They all want it. Mm-hmm. They all want it. Parents understand this freedom, and they understand they have it, they want it, and they're going to keep it. So things are starting to look a little differently in Nevada, and those same legislators now understand that they must answer to their constituents, and they are.
Well,
very positive.
It's a matter of numbers. There are a lot more parents than there are teachers.
That's right.
And if those parents care about their kids and vote, that creates a problem for the legislation. So
exactly.
Makes perfect sense. How's it working in Nevada? I mean, are you starting to see results yet, or is this still new? Is it going to take a couple years before we see parents getting educated to take advantage of this and schools competing?
It will take some time, but I will tell you that it is the fastest that we've ever seen people step up to take advantage of any program like this. Parents came immediately, and at all of the public hearings just on rules and regulations for implementing the program, literally hundreds of parents showed up. And as I'm told, that never had happened in Nevada before, but now everyone's really vested in this, and they're involved. And there is currently an injunction against the program pending some legal action. Because our opponents, will take legal action immediately as soon as that kind of freedom is given to parents. Mm-hmm. The opponents will try to stop that from happening. But the good news is that on our side, we have a really good track record of winning that litigation. So I feel very positive about it. Nevada and the rest of the country is now modeling new legislation based on what happened in Nevada.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we've been speaking with Leslie Davis Hiner. She's the Vice President of Programs and State Relations for the Friedman Foundation. Really appreciate you taking a little time with us today. Fascinating. I wish we had more time. I got a lot more questions, so I hope we can call you again for another time on another show.
Oh, yes, I'd love to do that. And in between times, you can also, and your listeners could check out our website at EdChoice, which is edchoice.org. Okay. We publish a great deal. We do a lot of research, so we can answer some of your questions there as well.
We'll definitely put that on our website and Facebook, and we will call you again. You have my word on that.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Gary Rathbun. It's an Economy of One.